Whenever you buy chickens from a hatchery, you can choose to buy sexed or unsexed, which essentially means you know what sex they are, if they're male or female. So if you buy sexed, typically we'll get all hens, and that's what most people want because they want them to lay eggs, and so you want all hens. But it's a lot more expensive, nearly twice as expensive to do it that way. So you can get it a lot cheaper if you get unsexed, which is what we did. Now the only problem with that is we have too many roosters. We have about a 50-50 ratio, a few more roosters than we do hens. They say that you want about 1 rooster for every 7 to 10 hens. So obviously we have too many roosters. So what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna eat them. So it's pretty easy to butcher chickens if you have all the equipment, but we don't. We have pretty minimal equipment. We did borrow a chicken plucker, but everything else is just gonna be kind of pretty primitive, pretty simple. So if you wanna butcher your chickens and you don't have a bunch of equipment, this might be an option. You could rent a plucker, or you could even hand pluck them, but it's gonna take a lot longer. So we're pretty fortunate to have this plucker. If you have like a propane, like a turkey fryer or something like that, you can use that. Basically, you just want something that's gonna be able to heat up water. So I have the big giant pan here. This is usually what I use for canning and stuff. So I have to wash it out real good afterwards. So I'm just gonna use that to heat up my water. And this is gonna be for plucking.
Go force feed.
Where'd you go?
It's a hen.
What we're shooting for is about 140 to 150. What we don't want to do is go over 155. Once we get over 155 or over, it starts to actually cook the skin. We don't want to do that. Once we get to that temperature, then we'll start dunking them in, and we'll leave them in there for about 30 to 45 seconds. And then we'll throw them in the chicken plucker, which my neighbor was nice enough to let me borrow. This is gonna be a huge time saver. I mean, probably gonna save me an hour or more than hand plucking. So basically the way this works, this is a handmade one. So basically once you turn this on, this bottom plate starts kicking and it throws that around. But these are little soft deals here that basically just takes off all the feathers. And then while it's going around, you take a hose and you just spray a hose down in there, and that'll wash everything down below and get all of the feathers off. All right, so it's been in there about 40 seconds. And see, these are coming out real nice and easy. That plucker should have no problem pulling those out. All right guys, so the last thing we have to do is we just bend this leg up here, and right at that bend, right where the leg starts to become scaly, we just cut that off. Just make a little incision and then bend it back the other way, and then cut those off. One thing that we noticed about the roosters when we're using them to cook, I mean, we kind of expected this. They're not going to be those big butterball type chickens that you get at the grocery store. You know, these are a year old. It's a little tough. To remedy this, we opted to use them in stuff instead of like using it for like fried chicken or like just cooking chicken breast. So we used it in chicken noodle soup, which we're going to show you guys how we made some chicken noodle soup out of it. And we made all the broth from scratch, so it turned out really, really good. Lots of good flavor. And so we just use it in like stews, and soups and stuff like that, where you can cook it for long periods of time and it cooks down and it gets really tender. So alright guys, so this has been simmering for about 3 hours. So as you can see, we have a really good amount, of oils and broth going on. This is really, really high in nutrients. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get rid of these soggy vegetables, and then I'm going to take all the meat off the bones. I'm going to get rid of the large chunks of skin and fat and stuff like that. I'm going to basically strain this all, and so I'm just going to keep all the broth, and I'm going to keep all the clean meat. And I'm going to dice that meat up, I'm going to put everything back in the broth, and that's when I'm going to start putting my vegetables in it, and then we'll add noodles next, and then we'll be almost there. Now we got everything in there, we've added the noodles, we got to roll into a nice boil. We'll boil it for about 5 or 6 minutes. Sort of watery now, we're going to get it a little bit less watery, so we'll have it thicker. If you want to leave it watery, you can do that too, that's fine. But just cook those noodles and those carrots and those celery till they're nice and soft and tender, and then it's ready to serve. It's like a big blank canvas just waiting for an artist.